Am I wrong for being indifferent towards my cousin and his wife after they named their new baby after my dad, who was killed on 9/11? As the title indicates, my, 38 male, dad was killed on September 11th. He worked at the World Trade Center in Tower 1, North Tower, for a company that lost the majority of their employees that day. I'll leave it at that, but I'm sure you can figure out who he worked for. I'm an only child and was incredibly close to both of my parents, so when my dad died the loss and grief was overwhelming, and TBH, it's still pretty overwhelming almost 25 years later. There isn't a day where I don't think about him, or the collapse of the towers, or think of the smell in lower Manhattan coming from ground zero, waiting in silence for any phone calls from him or a hospital saying he was a patient there, making copies of his missing person poster, and then the sinking dread creeping in and finally settling in our house when he knew he wasn't coming back. My maternal grandma's birthday was 9/9 and my grandparents were in NYC for a week to celebrate and ended up staying with us for a year afterwards to help with all of the paperwork, trust stuff, and support my mom and I as we navigated all of the victim compensation programs, etc., and to just try and provide some normalcy and continuity. My dad's parents also supported us, but they also lived in New York, so they didn't need to move in with us too, but they were with us about 80% of the time that first year. I typically don't like to talk about it or bring it up with causal acquaintances or coworkers. I go by a different last name professionally so no one can Google me and find out about it, and I've really worked hard to not have that day define me or my life. So I guess the current issue involves a cousin, 38 male, and his wife, 39F, on my mom's side having a baby and deciding to give their son my dad's name for his middle name. I have 3 cousins, all boys, and we were practically raised as brothers, so all of their kids call me uncle and I love them more than life itself. Throughout her pregnancy they kept hinting at a meaningful name, but I never picked up on what they were actually hinting at until I went to visit them in the hospital after he was born, which was earlier this year in March. When I saw my dad's name on the bassinet I just sort of stood there and froze and got all sweaty and clammy and didn't say anything. When she asked me what I thought and if I was happy about it, I just said, "Why would you do that?" I think this caught them off guard because she started to explain how they wanted to honor my dad, how my cousin missed him so much and they thought this would be a wonderful tribute. Again I asked, "Why would you do that?" The room started to spin a little and I thought I was gonna puke, so I excused myself and just went out into the hallway to collect myself. Edit. Our family likes to withhold names until after the baby is born because it's a lot harder to not like a name or show displeasure with it when you're holding the kid with said name. My cousin came out into the hallway to see if I was okay because he could tell I wasn't. I was starting to get upset and asked him one last time why would they do that and why did they think that was a good idea, and then I just left and went home. I didn't hear much from them after that, but once they brought my nephew home the calls and texts started. I think they know they crossed some line, but I'm not sure what that line is, but they're also saying I'm ruining the birth of their son by not being happy about his name? Of course I love my nephew and I'm happy he's here, but I just feel so overwhelmingly sad whenever I think about it now. Part of me feels like I can't do the same for my own son if I ever have kids now. Part of me feels like they're trying to coop a horrible experience and make it about themselves, and part of me just wants them to respect how I've chosen to live my life since my dad died by not talking about it much. Every time they talk about him they're now talking about my dad, and several people who never knew about him are upset with me. They even made a post on Facebook about it, told my dad's story, missed a lot of the details about what happened and the core of who he was as a person, and then tagged me without a heads up, so a few people I work with saw it and it's now running through my office. I lost a lot of control that day and I've spent the last 24 years trying to slowly build it back by being very careful with how I discuss my dad, and now all of that's over. Every time I'm going to see this kid I'm just going to be reminded of the worst day of my life, and it's not going to be a happy experience. I've told myself that I need to protect myself and feel indifferent towards him, but it's not his fault his parents gave him the name they did. So AITA here, because I definitely feel like one, but I don't know how I don't. Edit. So here's an update to some comments/questions. I'm on a 14-hour flight home from HKG and I've had a few glasses of wine, which has got me thinking. Hope this helps. I appreciate everyone's insight and support about this matter. First off, my last name is just changed at work and is my preferred name. My real name is the same for everything else, DL, CC, passport, taxes, etc. So regarding grief counseling and therapy in general, there were tons of resources for grief counseling made available in the first couple of years after his death. Tuesday's Children was a tremendous resource and organization, and they had an annual summer camp for the kids who lost a parent in the attacks. Additionally, the VCF provided mental health resources, and the company my dad worked for provided a lot of counselors for kids and spouses as well. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this was how it sort of became my unwanted identity. I was never just me, I was the kid whose dad was killed by terrorists in New York. Going through high school and having kids yell Taliban jokes or shout out Osama bin Laden at me in the halls was tough. College allowed me a refresh because I went to school in California where I knew no one and no one knew me. Eventually, all 4 of us, myself and 3 cousins, went to the same university. That's where my parents also went to school, so being on the same campus where they met and fell in love was oddly therapeutic and gave me a unique connection to my dad I wasn't expecting. I think what I've been struggling with lately is the milestones that he's missing now that I'm an adult. Turning 28 was the hardest one because I had now lived a longer lifetime without him than with him. I was 14 when he died. Soon I'll be the age he was when he was killed. Maybe part of me feels like that name is forbidden to use because my cousin has both of his parents and they've been able to experience and live every milestone my dad couldn't. The more that I think about it, the more I'm realizing that this is probably what upsets me the most. Here's this precious baby boy that I should be head over heels for, and I should be happy that he has my dad's name, but it's just another reminder of what my mom and I are missing, and that's just overwhelmingly sad to me. Skeptical. I do continue to see a therapist on a monthly basis, and we've gone to weekly visits since this happened. I know I'll be fine with time. I just was caught off guard when I saw the name without any warning. I have other nephews and nieces who are older and none of them share a name with my dad. One is starting 4th grade soon, where they'll start to slowly learn about 9/11 in school, but this is something I'm prepared for and that we can talk about in a slow and meaningful way. I want these kids to know about my dad and their great uncle and to know how awesome of a man he was, and while what happened to him is devastating, that doesn't define his life, my mom's life, my life, or our family story. I think in his own weird way, my cousin thought he was helping to do that. The FB post definitely caught us off guard too because we're just not that kind of family to post anything like that at all and make it public, so to have this 180 was upsetting. And again, it wasn't something I was aware of until I got the notification that I had been tagged in something. We do talk about my dad as a family. A lot. After Home Alone 2 came out, my mom and dad would fly my cousins out to NYC for a long weekend where we'd go around do all of the things Kevin did in the movie, minus letting us stay at the Plaza Ha. But we keep those memories in the family, and maybe now that my nephew has my dad's name those memories are gonna escape. At least that's my thought process that I'm working on with my therapist. At the end of my day, I just really miss my dad, and this was just another reminder that he's gone.